Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. A few months ago, I shared a tutorial on how to create a foil stamp effect in Photoshop, and with the holidays coming up, if you'd prefer to create that same effect in Illustrator, in this week's tutorial I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So what you see on screen is the exact outcome of this tutorial, and then I'm also going to show you how to save these effects so then you can apply them instantly to any other vector elements or typography that you'd like to in Illustrator. So just jumping right in, I'm going to create a new document, File New. We're going to keep it in CMYK in case this is something you'd like to print for a holiday occasion. So I'm just going to stick with the standard 11 by 8.5. So I've got a landscape orientation. My color mode is CMYK. My raster effects or my resolution is 300 ppi. You can see these if you toggle this little arrow down, which is the standard print resolution. And then I'm going to hit OK. All right, so the first thing we need to do is bring in that foil effect. And I do have a tutorial on creating a seamless texture pattern. So I'll put that on screen. Definitely check that out if you'd prefer to use your own texture. And then I have another tutorial on converting a Photoshop pattern into an Illustrator pattern swatch. So check that out as well if you need to reference that at all. I've got my keystrokes on screen so you can see every single keystroke that I make throughout this entire tutorial. Just a quick note, I'm on a Mac, so whenever you see this symbol, use Control if you're on a PC. That's my command, and this is Alt in case you weren't familiar with that symbol. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my foil texture since we're going to need that for our foil stamp effect, and this foil texture comes from my Glitz and Glam kit. It comes as a seamless JPEG already, so you don't have to do anything but bring it right into Illustrator and you can use it right away. So I'll leave a link to that kit if you're interested in other foil and glitter textures that are a part of that as well. So I'm just going to go File, Place, and I'm going to grab my hot foil texture and hit place, and you can see it's already a seamless texture pattern. And then I'm just going to go Object, Rasterize, hit OK, and now I can bring this right into my swatches palette. If you don't see your swatches, you can go Window, Swatches, and it'll pop right open. And I have a lot of swatches in here right now that I'm not going to use at all, so I'm just going to toggle this little icon down. I'm going to choose Select All Unused, and then I'm just going to click and drag these straight to the trash. So now I've got a cleaner palette. Now all I need to do is click on this texture and drag it right in here, and then I can delete this and I'm good to go. You can see I've got my little swatch of gold right here. So now I can get started with my foil stamp effect. So we can see everything a little bit better. I'm going to just drop in a background color so we can see what we're doing here on top of a different color. So I'm just going to change this to, we can stick with like a pinkish orangish color. That looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to put in some typography so we can kind of work through everything. So I'm just going to hit T on my keyboard and I'm just going to write out foil stamp in all caps. And I'm going to use a very stamp-like looking font. I believe it's a system font. It's called Rockwell. So I'm just going to change this to that. And let's see, I think, yeah, I've got a bold version of it. So I'm just going to go super bold with it. All right, so that's looking really good. So for this tutorial, we're going to be working in our appearance palette, and that's kind of where all the magic happens to apply all the different effects that we want to apply to create and simulate that foil stamp effect. So we're going to select our text, and then we're going to open up our appearance palette. It's this little symbol over here, and if you don't have it showing up, you can get to it by going Window, Appearance, and it'll pop right open. So this is where we're going to apply all those really cool effects. So the first thing we need to do is drop that foil texture into it. So in order to do that, we're going to click on this little icon right here, and we're going to select Add New Fill. So all you're going to do is hover over this little black area, click it once, and your swatches palette will appear, and you're just going to click on this gold, and just like that we can apply the gold straight to our typography, and you can see it's got a fill of our gold. So we're on our way right now. Everything's looking really good. So the next thing we need to do is apply kind of that shadow that comes into our typography so it looks like it's punched in. So in order to do that, we're going to toggle this little FX icon down, and we're going to choose Stylized Inner Glow. And this time an inner glow is typically white, and it's got a blend mode of screen, so it will glow, but we're going to use it like a shadow. So we need to change our mode to multiply. So select multiply in this drop down. This is your blend mode. And then in this little area, we're going to click on the color and just choose a dark, rich color. It can be all the way black, it can be more of a charcoal, just whatever you prefer. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And then we're going to apply an opacity of 30%, so it's not super dark. And you can preview all of this by just checking this little icon for preview so we can kind of see what's happening as everything is applied. So we're going to make sure we have an opacity of 30%, and we're going to create a blur of 0.04 inches, and we're going to make sure that blur comes from the edges instead of the center. So you can see everything's coming from the edge. So this is a great first step. Everything's looking really good so far. So we're going to hit OK. And now you can see if we toggle this little arrow down where the fill is, that our inner glow is right here. And if we ever need to come back to it, this is non-destructive editing. So nothing is permanently applied, which is really awesome in case you come back and you say, that doesn't seem quite dark enough. Maybe I want it to be 50% instead of 30%. All you have to do is click on inner glow and you can change your settings right here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is create a little bit of depth here. So we can close up our fill and we're going to create a new fill. So we're going to toggle that little icon down and choose add new fill. And this time we're going to make this new fill black, but we're going to drag it underneath our old fill. So I can close up this fill and I can just drag this underneath the old fill. So you can see if we turn this on and off, this one has all the settings that we previously applied to it. This one does not. So we're going to toggle this down and we're going to change this time to black. So we're just going to click on the black and now that's applied, but we can't see anything because this one is below the one that we previously edited. So if I turn this one off, if you toggle the little eyeball, it turns the effect on and off. So you can see we do have a fill of black right underneath it. So with our black fill selected, we're going to move it a little bit so it simulates a shadow, but a hard shadow because this is a foil stamp that's pressed super strictly right into your paper. So in order to do that, we're going to toggle down the little FX again and we're going to choose Distort and Transform and choose Transform. So it just needs to be off center just slightly. So we want a little bit of black up here. And when we have our shadow up here, it's going to create a highlight down here. So we're going to add a highlight to the base and a shadow up at the top. So in order to offset that little black to create our own kind of faux shadow, we're just going to offset our black fill layer by negative 0.02 inches. So you can hit preview and you can see what that looks like. You can see it was just nudged up very slightly and we're going to hit OK. All right, so this seems just a little bit dark. If you're happy with it, you can totally leave it. But if you feel like it's just a little bit dark and you want it to blend a little bit more with your background, all you have to do is click on this opacity right here and you can change it. This is your blend mode once again. So we're going to change our blend mode to multiply so it blends a little smoother into our background, and we'll change our opacity to 75%. Just to soften it up just slightly. So if you were watching the black areas, they got just a little bit lighter. So that's looking really good. And now the last thing we need to do is add the highlight to the bottom. Since we're pushing the shadow up here, it will naturally create a highlight at the base. So we're going to kind of go through the exact same steps that we just applied with our shadow, only this time it's going to be white. So we're going to come up here and toggle this down and choose add new fill, and you can see it automatically pops it up at the top. So we're going to drag it below our previous black layer and we are going to tap on this and select white this time. So now with the white selected, we need to transform it and kind of toggle it down a little bit. So with our white fill selected, we're going to click on this FX icon right here, toggle it down, once again, distort and transform, and choose transform. And this time we're going to toggle our vertical a positive amount. So we're going to go 0.01. So we're not going quite as far as we did with the black because we just want a sliver of that highlight showing up at the base. So if I hit preview, you can see we have it just at the bottoms of our letters. So it's a nice little offset, but it is extremely bright right now. So we need to change that. So I'm going to hit OK. And then just like we did with the black, we're gonna adjust our opacity. So we need to toggle this little arrow down because these are the settings that apply just to this white fill. So with the opacity right here, we can click on this. We're gonna change it to 40%, and we're going to change the blend mode to overlay so it kind of blends in with the background a little bit more. So you can see it's extremely subtle, but it's having a really nice, impactful effect where it kind of simulates that depth because you have that little bit of a hair of highlight, and then you can see it's definitely pressed in with the shadow that we created. Okay, so the very last thing that we need to do, everything's looking great and you could totally just run with it just as it is right now. But whenever you have a foil stamp that's applied to paper, it's pressed in with heat. And with that heat, you can sometimes get a little bit of a burned edge, which is actually really beautiful. So if you'd like to simulate that with your effect, I'm gonna show you how to do that. So all we're gonna do is come down here and we're going to choose, actually I'm gonna come all the way down here to the very bottom of all of my effects. And then I'm going to toggle this down and choose Stylize Outer Glow. And for my outer glow, I'm going to choose a blend mode of difference. I'm going to check this little box right here and you can see these are all the settings that we're going to use. So you can see what it looks like. It's going to be very subtle. Just look at around the edges of the letters. So if I hit preview, you can see it's just a very subtle little burn around the edges. So the blend mode of difference makes that really subtle blend with your background to your effect. And then I've selected a dark black/charcoal up here. So my opacity is at 20% because I want it to remain very subtle, and my blur is 0.03 inches. So I'm going to hit OK, and now everything's looking really, really good. So I'm all set right here. So this is my foil stamp effect, and if I would like to use it on other things, like say I drew, let me make this black so you can see everything really well. I'm just going to grab my pencil tool and say I just drew a heart, and it's a vector heart, and I want the same kind of foil stamp effect, and maybe my heart is green right now, and I want it to take on the same qualities. I don't know how to take this effect and put it into the heart. So you can't do it directly with your appearance palette, but you can do it with your graphic styles. So your graphic styles are found right below your appearance over here. And if you don't see this, you can get to it by going Window, Graphic Styles, and it'll pop right open. So these are all your default graphic styles, which we don't need for this. So once again, we can just toggle this down to select all unused, and we can just drag these guys to the trash. Once you're in your graphic styles, we're gonna select our foil stamp. So make sure that's selected, that part's really important. And then you're gonna come over here, you're gonna toggle this down and choose New Graphic Style. And we're just gonna call this Foil Stamp and hit OK. All right, and you can see it pops open right here in your graphic styles palette. And now you can select your heart and just click on this new graphic styles, and it applies all the effects that we just applied to our foil stamp, only it's on our heart now. So that's pretty cool. So you can do this with other typography. If I just wanted to type out effect right here and just click on graphic styles, it pops it right in just like that. So it's really, really handy. So one of the things about creating this effect is we've got it right here and it's handy and it's good to go in this Illustrator document. But say you have to create a new document later on. So you go File, New, and you create your new document. And now you're back to the original graphic styles. Your appearance palette is back to nothing. So how do you take it from one document and put it into the other? So there's two options here. So if you already have this document open, you can grab any of your elements and you can just copy it and paste it here. And when you do that, it will automatically bring in your graphic style into your graphic style palette. But if you lost track of this file along the way and you don't know where to find it, to copy and paste it in, to regain that graphic style so you don't have to do everything all over again, a nice way to hold on to all these is to export your graphic styles so you can import them later on into new files. So in order to do that, all you have to do is toggle this down and choose Save Graphic Style Library. So you're just going to choose wherever you want to save it and label, I'm going to call this foil stamp, hit save. And now when I am in my, let me create a brand new document so we're totally clean slate, you can see nothing is here. I can come over here to my graphic styles, palette, toggle this down, and choose Open Graphic Style Library, Other Library. And then I can just go in and choose the graphic style file that I just made and hit open. And you can see it pops right open with foil stamp selected right here. So now I can type anything I want, foil stamp. Let me make it nice and big. And I can just click on my little foil stamp, and there we go. We can bring it into any new file that we have without any issue, and we don't have to recreate this over and over again. So it's really, really handy because you only have to make it once, and then you've got it for forever. So once again, this texture is from my Glitz and Glam kit. I will leave a link on screen and a link in the video description where you can grab that if you don't want to take the time to create a seamless pattern out of your own textures. And that's how to create a foil stamp effect in Illustrator. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I release a new design tutorial every single Tuesday. And don't forget to head on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, for even more design tutorials and a bunch of design freebies. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.